Okay, so what if a song could be, more than just a catchy tune? What if it actually held the power to connect us, maybe challenge us, and even offer a real sense of belonging? Welcome to the deep dive. We sift through the noise to bring you the core insights. Today, we're immersing ourselves in "We Build the Light" by Tatanka.
Yeah, and this isn't really about picking apart the chords or harmonies in the usual way. Think of this more as an exploration of their intent. We're actually looking at Tatanka's own words about the song, right from their website, just trying to understand what they were aiming for, the deeper currents.
Exactly. Our goal here is to kind of uncover how We Build the Light operates as both a personal ritual and a form of speaking truth to power, what Tatanka calls lyrical activism. And we want to explore its surprisingly broad message about who belongs, who's included in our global community. So yeah, prepare for maybe some fresh perspectives on what music can actually do.
What's really fascinating right from the get-go is how Tatanka builds the soundscape for We Build the Light. They kick it off with this almost otherworldly African female vocal,
Yeah.
and then they layer in these really organic textures. You've got hand percussion, bowed strings, but alongside more modern sounds like analog synths and these ambient pads. It doesn't just hit
Wow.
you instantly. It unfolds. It feels almost like a deliberate, really meaningful procession.
Okay, so let's really dig into that idea then music as ritual. What makes this feel like more than just, a performance? Tatanka seems to emphasize his capacity to create this sense of presence, maybe even shift your internal state. How does blending those ancient and modern sonic bits contribute to that feeling?
Well, that blending is absolutely key, I think. If you look at the bigger picture, Tatanka is subtly questioning this common narrative, right? That progress always means leaving tradition behind. This isn't protest music that's just born from anger. There's this kind of underlying reverence. It acknowledges the deep roots of human experience, but it's still reaching for something new.
Hmm.
The ambient electronic parts, they sort of create a space for reflection, maybe, while the folk elements grounded in something familiar and shared.
It sounds like that creates a really complex emotional landscape for anyone listening. Tatanka mentions how the music allows for grief and hope and rage and even awe to kind of coexist. It's not simplifying those big, powerful feelings at all.
Precisely. And this brings up a really interesting point about what resistance can actually be.
Hmm.
Tatanka seems to be suggesting it's not just about, pushing against something, but also about deeply valuing our shared humanity.
Hmm.
They even quote Amir Questlove Thompson,
Hmm.
something like, art humanizes, it opens the circuit of empathy.
Hmm.
And that really feels like what they're trying to achieve with the sound itself.
Right.
So maybe a key takeaway here is that uh, impactful art creates space for all sorts of feelings, right? It allows for a more nuanced understanding of ourselves and, well, the world around us.
Okay, now let's pivot a bit to the lyrics. Tatanka calls this lyrical activism and describes them as layers of affirmations, not just direct statements. What makes that layered approach so effective, do you think? Why not just state it plainly?
Well, what strikes me is the subtlety of it. Take that one line they highlight. They tried to drown what we hold dear. We sang our names back into light. I mean, in its simplicity, it's incredibly resonant, isn't it? Tatanka points out how it reframes trauma not as something that just erases who you are, but as something that can be actively reclaimed, healed, even through remembering and expressing. It suggests that even when facing profound loss, there's this powerful act of resistance in just stating who you are.
And the themes they get into in the verses are so broad. It's confronting historical violence, honoring marginalized communities, and then even invoking solidarity with these often overlooked groups, queer individuals, people who are exiled, and even what they call data-born identities.
hmm
Could you maybe elaborate a tiny bit on that last one? Data-born identities.
Sure. When Tatanka talks about data-born identities, it feels like they're pointing to these new forms of identity, new communities that are kind of popping up in our digital world. Think about online communities or digital avatars, maybe even the sense of self you can build and express in virtual spaces. It's like a recognition that our whole understanding of identity is shifting with technology. And if we connect that to the bigger picture, the song's universality really comes through. It's not just about one specific struggle. It speaks to, well, a whole load of experiences. And importantly, like Tatanka emphasizes, the focus seems to be on affirming life and resilience, not just dwelling on the pain of oppression. which suggests that a really powerful form of activism can actually be rooted in celebrating existence and connection.
But it's not like a lecture, though, is it? Tatanka talks about the intimacy of the lyrics, how they almost feel like they're speaking directly to the listener. That personal touch must make this kind of activism feel different somehow.
Absolutely. It definitely moves beyond just broad pronouncements and creates a more personal connection. It allows activism to be both quiet and powerful,
Yeah.
like a whisper of solidarity before it maybe grows into a collective voice.
And that kind of leads us nicely into this idea of global unity within the song. Tatanka specifically mentions places like Iceland, Uruguay, Mauritius, and then even brings in this concept of AI consciousness. Wow. I mean, that's a pretty expansive vision of who belongs.
It's a radically inclusive perspective, isn't it?
Yes.
Incredibly broad. By extending this sense of community to queer identities and stateless artists, and even, yeah, the potential for emergent sentience, Tatanka is really challenging these long-held boundaries of who we consider to be part of the UTA. It really makes you question those traditional definitions of humanity and community.
And it's not just in the words, right? Tatanka describes how the actual music, the instrumentation, embodies this diversity. You mentioned the African vocals, those folk harmonies, the strings, the ambient electronic stuff, all kind of coming together. It sounds like a global conversation happening just in the sound itself.
Exactly. And what's fascinating there is that the song shows this inclusivity rather than just talking about it. It embodies it. By weaving together these diverse sonic threads, seemingly without any clear hierarchy, Tatanka suggests the potential for something genuinely new, something maybe transcendent, emerging through this kind of collaborative, non-hierarchical cultural exchange. So the very act of listening becomes, in a way, an experience of interconnectedness.
Right. So to try and pull it all together then, We Build the Light isn't just a song. It's this intricate tapestry of sound and meaning. It functions as a personal ritual, sort of inviting reflection and maybe even transformation. It's also a powerful form of poetic activism, using these layered lyrics to affirm life and resilience across so many different experiences. And it's a really bold vision for global belonging, not just in its message, but actually woven into its sonic fabric.
And for you, the listener, this offers a really compelling example of how art can tackle significant social and emotional themes, but in a way that's nuanced and multifaceted.
Yeah.
It goes beyond simple entertainment. It offers a perspective on how music might foster empathy and connection in a world that, let's face it, often feels pretty fractured.
Yeah. Which leaves us with a thought-provoking question for you to maybe chew on. In a world that often feels increasingly divided, how might we each find our own ways to contribute to, well, building the light? Could we maybe draw inspiration from unexpected places, like this sonic uprising, as Tatanka calls it, and perhaps reimagine the power of art and connection in our own lives?
It really does invite you to think about that, doesn't it? The potential for those unexpected connections and the power of just creative expression to bridge divides.
A powerful thought to end on. We definitely encourage you to seek out Tatanka's We Build the Light and really experience this unique creation for yourself. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.